Hello, everyone. You're watching Sunday Brunch with Adrian Goodson, and as usual, we have an all-star cast of ballers, which makes for a great show featuring Derek Anderson, former NBA standout, and also Mr. Basketball, aka Mr. Basketball, Mr. Alabama. I have Alfonso Buck Johnson. Now, let me give you the rundown on Buck. Buck is a former player and played 7 seasons in the National Basketball Association for the Houston Rockets. He was drafted 20th overall in the first round in '86. And then he played also for the Washington Bullets. He played an additional 13 professional seasons for teams in top leagues around the world. He graduated from Hayes High School in Birmingham and was named Mr. Alabama for his efforts and was instrumental, very instrumental, in the 1990 and 91 Rockets squad, averaging over 14 points a game in 82 games. Welcome to the show, Buck.
Hey, Goody, how you doing today? Good to see
I'm
you
doing
again.
good. I'm so excited. I'm excited to have you on the show. We haven't seen each other since the 2018 NBA Assistant Coaches Program. You were one of my favorites. We always partnered together to get our stuff done. I often think about you, and when I was thinking about the guys to bring on the show, of course, your name kept coming in my head for 2 weeks. I had you on my mind. I said, let me call Buck and see how he's doing and check on him during these COVID times. And so, while I have you, Buck, you had some fantastic days. I was looking at you on YouTube when you posterized Larry Nance back in the day. People don't know you had those hops. You had that mid-range game. Starting with you, please give us a glimpse into where you are now.
Well, Goody, I've been doing a number of things, but right now I'm actually working at a small Christian high school, urban Christian high school called Restoration Academy, where we able to minister to young kids and so have a real impact on the lives of young children on a daily basis. And so I'm very excited about that opportunity, and to get to serve with such Christian, in such a Christian atmosphere, it's just a wonderful blessing for me. But I've also recently, the last 3 years before that, I held a position as the athletic director for the Birmingham City School System. And so that was another wonderful blessing, being able to serve around 5,000 student athletes on a yearly basis, providing all of the things that they need with their systems and their programs. And so that was another wonderful blessing. And so I'm just happy to be here, Adrian, with you today.
Yeah, that's an awesome testimony. And another thing I'm gonna pinch you for, because you didn't say anything to me. I coached in the top 100 camp for boys, okay, in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm scrolling down Google, and I did not realize that Jamal was your son.
Yeah, yeah, he's having a great career. He started out his career at Memphis over there with Tubby Smith when Tubby was at Memphis here a couple of years ago, and then when they made their change and brought Penny in, he was decided to come back home, get closer to home, and sure enough, was able to land a scholarship down at Auburn University. So he's at my rival school. He's the Auburn guy, and I'm an Alabama guy. But now,
You
since he's at Auburn, I got to go with family.
Absolutely, Auburn's a great school. And I'm like, wait a minute, I coached this kid. This is Buck's son. I didn't even know. And I'm telling you, we had an all-star cast. I had an all-star cast I was coaching. I
Yeah, he
mean,
told me.
literally, I had Bobo. I had Tremont Waters, who actually ended up being the co MVP
Hmm.
to Zion Williams. This is how good this kid was. I had Tadas Sadekius. I had Jalen Hands. I had your son. I
Man, what
had
a squad.
Keldon Johnson.
Huh.
It was just fantastic. We lost. We were undefeated the whole time, and then we lost to uh, in the finals to I can't remember the team, but it was a good team. Of course, Zion was on it. We couldn't do anything with his size, and we got some kids that got hurt, and I tell you what, Buck, I'm looking there and I'm seeing your son, and I'm so glad he made it, because I'm always thinking about, where the guys are, what they're doing, how they're doing. And, some of them kind of make it big. And then there's the other ones that, their journeys are a little longer, and that's okay. But I'm so glad that your son is doing well. And, we got the opportunity to listen to talk to Derek Anderson. He was supposed to be on the show, and he couldn't. He couldn't be live today, but we pre-recorded him yesterday. He couldn't be live today due to community involvement with the police department in Louisville, Kentucky. So I dare not disturb that. I said, you go do your thing. We'll pre-record, and but we talked to him about his childhood, and this is what he had to say. Derek, welcome to the Sunday Brunch.
It's good to be here, Adrian. Always good to see my people.
Absolutely. We haven't seen each other since, or talked to each other in a minute, but we've had conversations after we were in the NBA assistant coaches program in 2018, and that was awesome. To get the opportunity to do some work with you guys and get to know you guys and see how you guys function and flow on that other side. I mean, you're from Louisville, Kentucky. Actually, you are from the area where basketball was discovered. Take us back and talk to us a little bit about your walk and, some of the things that influenced you and how you started, bouncing the basketball.
Well, I think when I grew up, it was the Muhammad Ali era where he was pretty much coming back to Louisville and showing us that, black kids could make it from the hood. And
Wow.
for us, we had seen so much negativity that it was just like, oh, man, what other options do we have? So to see him say, hey, you can make anything out of yourself, just do the right thing, be a good person. We started to go through our neighborhoods and everybody just started being cool with each other, where normally we would be with odds at each other because you're from a different project. But he kind of brought stability and showed us that. Then Darrell Griffin came along, and then we started watching him. And then we had more people in our path that were successful outside of the streets. So we grab a hold to sports. Me being 11 years old, I never played basketball. I played football, and just in the neighborhood. But then when you start playing basketball, and then my home life was messed up. My dad left at 10, and I came home to an empty apartment at the age of 11, and I didn't see either one of my parents for 20 years. So I grew up in the projects with other people. And this is like 83 and 84. So I just gravitated to basketball, saying, you know what? If I do good in school, I'm a good person. I play basketball. I can get a better life. I followed that and I did it. And that's how I started. And I just kept moving on from that.
Wow. And that's an awesome testimony, something that people just absolutely have no idea about you. And I was reading about that, and you said it exactly how I read it, where you were, you came home to an empty apartment and, all of a sudden you were, being taken care of by the streets and learning from the streets. And what an awesome testimony to have someone like a Muhammad Ali come back home, come into town and then scoop you up and take you under his wing and say, hey, listen, if I can make it, you can too. And, for a man who survived through so many things that we could never even imagine having survived through, to come back into town and say something like that to you, that was definitely a building block for you to just take off. And you took off, DOS High School, you had a fantastic career. You went to Ohio State. Sometimes we go to schools and we find out that that's not what's for us. But I can tell you what, when you went to Kentucky, that's when everybody knew your name.
Yeah, no. Well, a lot of people knew me at Ohio State, but Ohio State wasn't winning as much as Kentucky, because we played against. So when you're a hooper, people recognize it. But when I went to Kentucky and I showcased my game on this big stage, it changed my life. It changed everything. And but again, like when you spoke about Muhammad Ali, him coming back and talking to people and talking to normal people, he didn't know we were going to be successful. He just had a kind word to say to us. And that's what we needed. We needed some good, kind words. We didn't need everybody trying to be tough and gangster. We wanted to see a different avenue, and he gave us that. He told me, read books. Well, nobody reading books like that as far as just reading regular books. He said, read something that's going to broaden your mind, not so much, like a Nelson Mandela bella. He said, read something that says positive stuff to build your mind, your character up. So for me, it was just an amazing feeling to have someone like him come back home.
It's just an awesome testimony, Buck. And you're talking about a kid who, graduated from Doss High School out of Kentucky. He played college ball at Ohio State University, and then on to the University of Kentucky. And in '96, he helped the University of Kentucky win the NCAA championship under Rick Pitino, who was a fantastic coach. And then he was selected by the Cavaliers as the 13th overall pick in the 1997 draft. In addition, he played for the Clippers, the Spurs, the Trailblazers, the Rockets, and then went on to the Heat where he won a championship, and then finally the Bobcats. And this is from a kid who was homeless. And it's a segue to the next question that I'm going to ask you, Buck, is what challenges did you face as a youngin' and when you were playing, and who did you listen to and trust as a young fella?
Well, during my time in middle school and in high school, Birmingham, believe it or not, was one of the major hubs for basketball in the South. Um, before Atlanta became Atlanta, before North Carolina and Alabama, I think were two of the better states for basketball in the South. And so we had a number of guys that came before me, like Wendell Hudson, who was the first African American basketball player at Alabama. He was from Birmingham as well. He played at Parker High School, which it was the big four. It was Parker, it was Hayes, it was Carver, and it was Jackson Nolan. Those were the big four inner city schools. And
Yeah.
man, we produced a lot of great talent out from the early 70s up until maybe mid 80s, early 90s. Birmingham was actually a hotbed of talent. And so I grew up watching all of these guys, like I said, from Wendell Hudson to Mule King, Reggie King, who played at Alabama, who's all-time leading scorer at Alabama as well. He played in the pros. He played with Kansas City. They had the Kansas City team. The Kings, he played before they went to Sacramento. He played there for about 7 years. And then with Eddie Phillips, who was the number one pick back the year before, 3 years before I was drafted. So we had a number of guys that came before me that I pay homage to, and I learned a lot from. Enos Watley, who I played with, he was just a year ahead of me. He played, and got drafted by Chicago, by the Bulls, and played a lot, 10, 12 years in the NBA as well on a number of teams. And so just had a number of guys. But the guy that first introduced me to basketball was my middle school coach. I thought, back when I was 12 years old, he was the biggest guy in the world. He was just a big 6'7" guy with left-handed, big, strong, physical being, physical presence. And so, every day we walked into the gym, we had to chant that we love basketball. We love basketball. And if you didn't love it, you couldn't enter his gym. And so I started loving basketball at the age of about 11 to 12 years old. And he was also the track coach. He was also a mentor. He was also a father figure, a lot of life lessons learned from my middle school coach who just recently passed. And so I lost a great mentor and a great friend and a great coach. But he was instrumental in getting me started in a game of basketball. And I came from a similar background. No, my father was an alcoholic. My mother, she was real young when she had me. She was only 18, 19. And my great aunt, my grandmother was already had passed when my mother was a child. So my great aunt took us in and raised me as her own. And so all of the things, all of the toughness, all of the, just all of the things that I learned it from her and from my middle school coach. But God is awesome. And he took care of me. He was there watching over me every step of the way. And I give him all the glory for my success.
That's an awesome testimony, and that's why I love doing this show, Sunday Brunch, because I get to sit back and get goosebumps over other people's testimonies in this game. Basketball is just a fantastic platform for any youth, and so just to segue into the next question. Buck, you and Da. You guys both played with some heavy hitters in college and in the pros, like Tony Delk, Kenny Smith, Mario Elie, Gary Payton, Tim Duncan, Sleepy Floyd, Hakeem Olajuwon. All of those people around you. I know for me, I would always try to take a piece of somebody and to build myself. Who did you mimic Who did you when you were on the court? You were going 3, 2, 1, and you were who?
I was always Dr. J. I
Exactly.
always dreamed to be 6'7" because he was 6'7". I dreamed to be 210 pounds, whatever he weighed at the time when I started watching. I ended up right around 210, 215, and maybe got up to about 220 at the most. And so, man, I always emulated him, and I was always a Julius Erving fan, and even when I got into the pros, my first year was his last year, and so got a chance to
Wow.
play with him and play against him in the in a preseason game. And he came in with one of my most memorable moments, and he'll probably kill me for this, is that he came in, he was older, and he came in with one of those famous finger rolls, and man, the young Buck Johnson came out of nowhere and got a piece of it. And boy, I'll never forget that because he was my hero, is my hero, it still is my
Yeah.
hero. And so to be able to play on the same court with him was just amazing feat for me. But playing with Akeem Olajuwon every day and practicing with him and even before each and every game for 6 years, we would rush out to the court before the game started and get our one-on-one action together before this game, get a sweat going, get warmed up. And man, learning and working with him on his dream shake and I was from college. I had a jump hook, and so we kind of mimic each other. He would work on the jump hook. I would work on the dream shake, and so every day for 6 years, it was a wonderful blessing for me. So
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, I love Dr. J myself. I mean, he was just a great player to mimic. He was a great player. He was a great role model. So many things that were awesome about him. And you're listening to Sunday Brunch with Goody, and I have my guy on here, Buck Johnson. I'm so happy to have you. And going back to Derek, I mean, he talked about the same thing. He talked about what it was like playing with great players and great people. And this is what he had to say. From high school, and then you go over to Kentucky University. Not only are you a standout, but you're also playing with other standouts, Antoine Walker, Tony Delk. What was it like playing on a team with them and winning the championship? You guys had a fantastic team, but I tell you, there was a lot of talent on that team, but you stood out. I remember watching you win that championship game, and I mean, young fella, you went off.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think what happened was I had already knew I was good because I played against those guys a couple years before, and I had like 20-some points. So playing against them when I got to Kentucky wasn't a fear factor where a lot of guys be like, they got to prove themselves. So what I did was I took a back seat because we had Antoine, Tony Delk. Like they shot most of the balls. They had already been there in my first year playing. And I didn't want to come in and be on a losing team. So guess what I did? I sacrificed. I averaged like 10 points. But I was at Ohio State averaging 16 and 5, 6 assists. Like I could have did more, but I knew for us to win, we had to have sacrifice type of players. So for me, I wanted to do that for our team. And Ron Mercer we had 7 McDonald's all team. 7. Like that's incredible. Like you had 7. I mean, and then we had some guys on our bench that were really like they're Mr. Basketballs of their hometown and couldn't even get in the game because it was so talented. It was like crazy. So. But Coach Pitino did one good thing. He told us this. He said, "You live in the precious present, and you'll never have to worry about what tomorrow brings." He said, "If you handle your business today, tomorrow will take care of itself." And from that point on, man, we just played together. We hung out together. 14 of us go to the bowling alley. 14 of us go to the movie theaters. We wasn't with our girls. They were like, "Where y'all going?" It's like the team's goal. We sticking together. We gonna make this work. And we didn't have animosity because we hung out with each other. When you get clicks and you see that now, like 3 or 4 dudes hang with 3, and then other crew hang with other crews, like you got animosity because they don't know each other. We wasn't like that. We all stung out. And so when we got on the basketball court, it was like if somebody got 20, we was hyping him up to get 30. Antoine get rolling. Come on, Twan, go to work. Tony get hot. Shoot that thing, Tony. Like we were motivating each other instead of arguing with each other. And that's why we beat everybody by 27 points the whole year. I mean, we were undefeated. Get everybody by 27 points a game.
You guys were rolling. I swear, you guys were rolling. And then, I forgot even about Ron Mercer. Ron Mercer was he was a beast itself, and it's funny how you guys all ended up, and you guys all ended up in that same kind of circle when you go to the pros. San Antonio and Houston, and then we'll get to that too. But all of those things that were happening to you. I remember as a kid when I was playing basketball and I'm getting ready to go to high school to college, and then going from college to making the jump to go to overseas. I was a little more, I was more grown, but I still needed mentors and I needed people to help me. But when you're in that period of time where you're making that transition from high school to college, it's so important who you listen to and who's in your ear and those people that you surround yourself with. Who were those people that you surrounded yourself with? Who were your mentors?
Well, for me, my mentors was growing up with school teachers because they were telling me the realization of life. They weren't telling me to put all my eggs, just say, hey, if you don't make basketball, you're not going to do anything. They were always saying, hey, take your schoolwork as serious as you took your basketball. So they say take both the same way. So I would get on the school bus, do that. Some of school teachers that. But I will be honest, the most influential person I ever had is to hang around with was another basketball player. A football player who became my best friend. And he and I saw people go to jail, died at a young age. So he and I said, man, we got to look out for each other. He said, if I'm going to pull your coattail, you pull mine if I'm messing up. So we held each other accountable. He late for school, man, come on, you got to do 50 push-ups, come on. So if I'm running late, he going to come knock on my door because I didn't have an alarm clock, so he would come knock on my door. Like, we'd actually looked out for each other. So I didn't have like an older role model. I mean, him and I just happened to be mature enough to say we're not selling dope, we're not smoking, we're not drinking, we're not partying. We're going to go to school, play sports, and get out of these projects. So we kind of held each other to a standard. And then I watched other athletes like Daryl Griffin and all them. I saw how they didn't do things. So I kind of watched from a distance, and I just took it from there. But I think now if you got a lot more successful people, you should look at someone who's been there before. A lot of these kids they listen to a guy who's never done nothing in his life. He's a AAU coach, and then you're going to say, well, he's telling me this. Well, he's never done it. How you going to listen to him? Like, if someone's telling you that they've been there before, you want to listen to them so you can avoid the pitfalls or the mistakes that they made. So I would always tell someone to listen to somebody who's been there before. You can listen to everybody, but you gotta hone in to the people who've been there before because they've lived it. So they can actually tell me what I need to do, what I need to do.
Wow. Once again, another awesome testimony. I love having you guys on the show. It's just a different take. I'm always interviewing WNBA players. I'm always around former WNBA players. This is just a different take, just to get the different perspective on the guys, because you guys have a totally different perspective, and this segues and leads me into the next thing that I'm going to ask you. How are you surviving COVID? There's so many things that have been going on. People sickness, and we have people perishing all around us. The season was canceled. It came back around, Buck, and we're all in our glory. Denver just won against the Clippers, and so now we go, it's forced to a game 7. So I think that that's awesome. We're getting to watch basketball, but most of all, we're getting to watch them in the BLM movement, and the Black Lives Matter, and also on the women's side, we have Breonna Taylor. Just to use her name as an example, would say her name, and so it's just fantastic what everyone is doing. I know that a lot of people don't agree with the movement, especially when it has to do with kneeling down on one knee. It's a sore spot. However, whatever it is that we need to do to promote change, and if that was something that caught people's attention, then so be it. It's so much bigger than all of us. And what they're doing in that bubble is fantastic. How does that make you feel? And I know that it's a long-winded question, but I'd like to know how you're doing it during COVID. Do you have any new developments? Have you redefined yourself? And how are you getting involved in the BLM movement that we have out here?
Well, I've been trying to be as safe as possible. The family, when it first happened, everything was shut down. I have 3 sons, a wife and 3 sons that all are in college right now. And so they were all home. And, yeah, we got a chance to really bond, and develop, some friendly, some family quality family time. We got out and started, walking, and before long we were running, and then after that we were tossing the football around, and then from there we ran hills, and I mean then the biking started. We got bikes and we started riding bikes, and so for us, it was just a great time to reconnect as a family, get closer as a
Absolutely.
family to really build that strong bond again. And, because, it won't be long. They're going to run off with their own families. It's our boys I'm talking about. And they're going to have their own families, their own wives, own kids. And so they might not want to hang around mom and dad as much here coming up. And so we really took that time and took the time to really, focus on family, doing a lot of family things. Staying safe, staying distant, and really, because my mother, she had some issues. She'd had cancer, and she was battling cancer doing this, but she's come out great. She's went through radiation and had vasectomy, and she's just doing awesome. And so we're making sure that we don't, we stay safe with her and don't take anything to her. And when we do visit her, we social distance with her as well. And I know I love to hug her and give her a big hug and squeeze and kiss, and just because we grew up that way, and my sons as well, and we kind of have to stay back, and that's difficult for us. And so, and I
Absolutely.
got two little nieces, grandnieces, I'm sorry, great nieces, and so man, they are beautiful. They're 1 year old, and they'll be two here in October, and you ask them when their birthday is, they're October already. And so, just having the chance to spend a lot of quality family time for us has been awesome. Um, as far as the Black Lives Matter movement, we've had some opportunities to really look at it and have some discussion, serious discussion with our kids, our sons about the movement, and about you have to have that talk with your sons about being careful, about being respectful when authorities approach you or stop you, or you have any kind of interaction with them. How to respond, and how to to be respectful, and just stay away from, be smart and be safe. At the end of the day, our main thing to them was coming home at the end of the day, so we could be with them, and so just trying to reiterate what they've already heard a million times about being safe, and that kind of thing, and then just being careful and being respectful, is what we've done. And as far as getting involved, not much really on our end. Hadn't had a real opportunity. We have had some visuals. The school I work at, we've they've talked about coming up with new initiatives to inform our young students and our teachers who might not be
Yes.
minority on just listening, and trying to figure out ways that they can get involved as well to continue the movement and continue to be positive in with the outlook of the movement. So and that's what I've been doing. We, mostly just family stuff, getting involved in the school, and preparing for the kids to come back and create new initiatives. I said to get them, make them more aware, because the young people a lot of times not as aware as they need to be, and so to keep them aware and to create new initiatives for us has been huge for me.
I mean, that's just great. I mean, a lot of people have been using this time and utilizing this time to like get closer with their families, which is, sometimes which God, what God has for us at this moment. We don't have many things that we can do, but we can certainly rebuild our families. We can rebuild ourselves and reconstruct ourselves. COVID has been tough on a lot of people. I'm just coming off a loss of my dear Aunt Rosalind, which has been tough for me and my mom. That's her baby sister, and so it's really about learning how to be here without her. It's been since July, and we've been just surviving and trying to take one day at a time. We have the podcast came out of this whole COVID-19. Sunday brunch with Goody came out of that. So it's just it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. So we keep it moving. And once again, we are streaming. Okay, but we're streaming via Facebook. We're streaming via LinkedIn. We're streaming via Twitter, and we're streaming via YouTube, and that's a difference. It was only Facebook, and now it's grown. And so glory be to God on that one. Everyone, once again, you're watching Sunday Brunch with Adrian Goodson. And as usual, we have an all-star cast of ballers on here. Got Buck Johnson, Derek Anderson, who couldn't be on the show because he is doing community service out there with the police department in Louisville, Kentucky. And going back to Derek, DA is what we call him. Let's listen in on Derek's developments during COVID. Right now is a really difficult time, Derek, and there's a lot of people out here nowadays. It's COVID. We have social reform. We got issues going on all across the board. How have you been surviving COVID? I know that you're doing a lot of things. You're a philanthropist. You do things in the community. You're out there. What things? Any new developments? Anything that you have done during this time period during COVID? Because it's like, oh well, I don't have time because I got to go to work. Then all of a sudden, COVID-19, and now you have all of the time to do everything that you always thought about and can't imagine.
Right. Well, I've been fortunate enough to retire basketball, and I've been able to be a stay-at-home dad. So I was already home every day. So, but I still had a job. I still have to work. I still put in work for other things. My foundation is key because I'm trying to save this next generation from themselves. And we as adults, it's our scenario that we got to start planting better trees. A lot of these parents are allowing these kids to wild out, but it's their leadership that is lacking, this making this generation fall off. And then, of course, social media influences them a lot more. But during COVID, man, I just felt like that I just wanted to continue to build our communities back together. Like, you're not going to always please everybody, but the fact is you have to do something. You can't stand by the sideline, expect to get in the game, and then wonder if you lose the game, then you'd be like, well, man, I didn't know this is that. Well, if you're not in the game, you're not going to help. Like, you just got to do something. So for me, it was just getting involved and knowing I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. What I've done is got behind the closed doors and try to get these laws changed. We got the no knock warrant change. So now we got that done. But we've been doing behind the scenes because everybody's rioting and protesting. But if you don't change the laws, man, these people not changing. We got to get in the real system. We protest and it's cool. But if you're not getting these laws changed and getting people held accountable, it's not going to change. It's going to slow down. It's going to pick back up years later. It's been going on for too long. They're too comfortable about doing this. So I just wanted to get behind, the scenes to try to get these laws changed in some kind of way to protect us, protect all people, especially Black people. we're the only race in the history of the world been hung on a tree. The only race. So I think we just need to focus on, getting all good people, white, Black, everybody in the world, good people to work together. Cause I told this guy the other day, I said, if you go, I said, do you believe in heaven or hell? And he was like, yeah. I said, so when you go to either one, do you think it's only going to be one race there? He looked at me and was like, oh man, you're right. Yeah, right. Because guess what? Wherever you go, there's going to be another race. You're going to have to live with other people. There's no way around that. You can go any country, anywhere. You're going to be around another race of people. You got to treat good people the same way. Everybody's just got to be good together. Nothing else is expecting to move on.
Oh my goodness, Buck! You heard that. You're watching Sunday Brunch with Adrian Goodson, aka Goody. We have our all-star cast of ballers, which makes for a great show as usual. And Buck, it's just been so great to have you on the show. Can you do me a favor and elaborate, discuss how people can get in contact with you? And I'm also going to give that same opportunity for DA to help you guys out. Anything that you might be doing in the community, anything that we can sign off or co-sign on before we go?
Well, I'm in the process of developing my foundation as well. We hadn't got it off the ground yet. It's just been created, but it's kind of been sitting idle. But this is giving me a chance to think about where I want to go with it. Not only doing basketball things, but also giving students an opportunity to explore other opportunities outside of basketball, skills training. The electricians, the HVAC workers, and those skilled positions, field jobs is kind of what we've been talking about, and so that's where we're headed. But other than that, I'm only on LinkedIn as of now, and so you can follow me or contact me right there on LinkedIn, and so that's where you can find me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And, you know, I'm going to definitely look you up. We're already friends on LinkedIn.
That's right.
But, you know, we keep in touch. And, you know, for all of those people that are out there for your podcasting purposes, if you have Anchor FM, download it. If you have Spotify, download it. If you have Google Podcasts, download it. Castro, download it. Radio Public, download it. Pocket Cast, download it. We're on Overcast, download it. Apple Podcasts, download it. Sunday Brunch with Goody. And as usual, Sammy Sosa, to all of my people, I love you. And if don't nobody love you, Goody does. Thanks for tuning in to Sunday Brunch. Love you, Buck.
Thank you for having me, Goody.
Peace.